There we go. Hi, Lee. Hello. All right. Hello and welcome to our March program and membership meeting. Kind of running things a little bit ad hoc today. I did have a little bit more material, but when I realized how hard the amateur radio direction finding spiel is, I'm going to stick to what I know, because we don't all have 80-meter transponders and all the rest of that. I'd like to think that we'd have more fun with what we do anyway, with smaller fox hunts and everything, but I'll get to that in a couple minutes. Hi, I'm Thomas Avila, Kilo Hotel 6, Golf. I'm the president, and yeah, if anything, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves as usual. We still don't have a PA system, so if everybody could speak up, that'd be best. We do have the microphone for the online viewership, so speak into the mic, but give it some air behind it for everybody else in the room. We'll go ahead and start off with John. John, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Oh, I got to get a better mic there. That thing's just made of some old copper wire.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Farley. Where am I? There I am. I don't want another belly shot again of me. I'm Sean Farley, WA6GXC General. I'm on the board. And hopefully you'll see. Oh, there I am. Hi, everyone. Hi, Leah. Good to see you. And the two others online. So I'm going to give you over to David.
Okay, thanks, Sean. I'm David Miller, KH6CZ, and board member as well. And if you can hear me, I hope, and see me, that's great. Education outreach is our main committee activity. And we had a recent activity on Friday at the Hilo Union School. I know a number of you have participated online or on the repeater with us, and thanks very much. And more to come in the near future. So we'll go to Joe next.
Thanks. I'm Joe, W86JOE. I'm extra. I'm the secretary of the club, operating activities chair, and a bunch of other stuff. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Hank.
Hello. I don't know if you can see me over here in this corner. Hello. I guess I'm invisible. That's okay. That's okay. I'm Hank, KH6HAK, amateur expert class, sometimes lightning rod, sometimes space cadet. Thanks, Hank. WH7BR, Paul from Volcano. And I think if we go this way, we get everybody one pass.
Hello, K6KU Roy, Mountain View in Hilo.
Hello, everybody. I'm Rick, W86FC from Ocean View.
Mark Watanabe, WH6FSA, large board member, general license.
Frank, K6FA, I'm in Ocean View.
I'm Bill, ND0B and HPP.
Tom, WH6EBS from Volcano.
V63JB, Motang Mai Sawia from Yitam and Yap. And I'm about to go back very quickly too. But I answer to John, or I answer to teacher a good part of the time. Tony?
Tony, Whiskey Hotel 6, Delta Victor, India, Biarc Treasurer.
Bernie, Whiskey Bravo 6, Papa India, Oscar Hilo.
I'm Dennis, WH6ELY, extra class.
I'm Fred, WH6HAA from Kaloli Point.
I'm Bob, AH6J. I've been around a long time from KL, about 7-8 miles out of Hilo, south.
I'm Kyle, WH6FQQ.
Jim Tater, WH6EMN Amateur Extra. I live here in Hilo. Today's my refreshment committee day.
Thank you for the refreshments. Thank you. And then we have a few folks joining us online. Lee, you want to unmute and join us? Introduce yourself.
Muted?
Oh, nope, you're good.
I'm Lee Critchlow, Lower Gloomwood, and I amateur extra, and I do the newsletter, the Hamgram, the Big Island Amateur Radio Club Bayark Hamgram. So very well-read publication. Back to you guys.
All right. Thanks, Lee. Yep. She does all the magic on the Hamgram. And if there's ever anything you folks want to add to it or anything else, reach out.
That's right.
Yeah, you do such a good job. Let's see. Start off. We do have a couple of announcements. There is the
World Amateur Radio Day.
there.
Okay, the World Amateur Radio Day is going to be on April 18th, but it could be any time in April per the ARRL. We need an Elmer, someone who can explain concepts like propagation, SWR, etc. We also need ideas for a venue, and also if anyone has a monitor and or a laptop to donate to the club, that would be most appreciated. That's all I have. There you go.
Yep. So if you have some extra time or a monitor or a laptop, that would be great and it would help out a lot. Even if it was for a temporary solution to help that go along, that would be awesome. Let's see. What else was it? Oh, the raffle. We will be having a raffle type of setup on the next meeting, hopefully. It is kind of a beta test for this, but Jim, you want to kind of just talk about it real fast?
Okay, but we're going to start a raffle next month. And what it's going to be, it's going to be $1 a ticket, and the winners will get $5. The winning, however many tickets will be $5 each, depending on how many people purchase tickets. So however much goes in the pot, then half of that money will come back out to the winners, and half of the money is going into the club for repeaters and other various things that we want to fund. So that makes it legal, so it's not gambling. Okay, so that's the deal. But starting next month to be $1, so bring money.
All right. Yeah. And yeah, that'll help out the club quite a bit there. I know we have a more than a few programs we'd like to keep going and help out with. But yeah. And then there was some mention of a little bit of confusion about the structure with which, I'm the president. We have a secretary. We have all of these board members. And the way it actually works out, from my understanding, I mean, it's best to actually read the club guidelines because even I'm a little bit confused. Actually, let me read it a little bit more so it's a little bit further solidified. Tony did a great job of explaining it to me, but I'm still fuzzy because that's just me. But every 2 years, we do have roles that have vacating members who end up being. Yeah, Tony's going to just, thank you, Tony.
Okay, so what he's referring to is the Bayark Constitution and Bylaws, which is published on bayark.net. And I would encourage everyone to read the Constitution and Bylaws because then you learn how the club works. But in a nutshell, we have 6 elected director positions and 1 appointed director position that is appointed by the 6 elected directors. The appointed position is the club trustee, and that's William Pohemoth. He's not here today. But the other 6 positions are elected. They're elected to 2-year terms. And we stagger the 2-year terms. So each year, that means half the board gets reelected. So 3 this year, 3 next year. That way we can have some continuity of operations and we don't have a completely green new board coming in. At the beginning of each year in the January meeting, those 6 elected directors will assign the club officers. So there's 4 officer positions: president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. So 4 of those 6 elected directors get assigned to positions. The other 2, you could just call them directors at large. Basically, they get to kind of cruise and relax, while the other 4 of us have to take on all the heavy responsibilities. Question? Oh, okay. So in a nutshell, that's what it is. Now, as far as the responsibilities of those positions, president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer, it's pretty much very similar to any other nonprofit corporation, the customary duties. And of course, the station trustee position has to keep us legal with the FCC. That's his or her Juliana. And the other important position are the 6 committees. So each committee has a committee chair, and oftentimes that is going to be a board member, but it doesn't have to be a board member. In fact, I would encourage everyone to join one or more of the 6 committees. So we've got the programs, the education and outreach, digital systems committee, the voice repeater committee, public service communications committee, and who did I miss? Did I say education and outreach? Those are the 6 committees. We're just now getting the list of committee members. I haven't got the website updated yet, but as secretary, Joe's about to send me an updated list, and I will publish it on the website. Although the March newsletter did have a better list on the right-hand sidebar. Thanks, Lee, for getting that in there. So you can check out the March newsletter. We have added some more names to those committees since then. So that will be up on the website in the next couple of weeks. But I encourage everyone who is interested to join one or more of these committees. One other announcement, we had been planning to support the Honolulu Marathon under Les Hittner was working on coordinating that. Unfortunately, he only got 4 volunteers who were committed, and we needed 10. So he informed the race official that we will not be able to do radio communications for the upcoming marathon. But that's an example of what his committee's been trying to do. And we do get committee reports from each of the committee chairs, and we try to publish those reports in the newsletter. Any questions? All right. Guess I'll pass it back to you.
And well, for the education and outreach side of things, we do have a very active couple or few members of the group here that actually are active on the repeater and converse with the children during these events, which is much appreciated. Thank you all for doing that. You had something you wanted to add?
Thanks, Thomas. Yeah, education and outreach. I chair that committee, and we're pretty active. The last couple of years, we've engaged with the Museum of Science and Technology here in Hilo, and we've visited schools, science nights, and various activity evenings primarily. Although we did do an early morning event this past Friday at the Hilo Union School. And that worked out really well as well. John Bush and Bob and a few people were able to join us, our regular crew. And it was a totally interesting event. I would say the feedback is generally good, and the interest and enthusiasm and participation levels are continuing to grow. So we're continuing that program through the year. We engage with the museum, with the YMCA, and focus on children up to early high school. So if you can join us on the air, people like Lee was amazing at this past event, and that she handled the major portion of the communications over the repeater. And thank you very much for that, Lee. The kids love talking to you. And we also had Bob out there as well, and Linda Quarg as well. So very good. And then our usual suspects, we start with Jim, and we got Fred, and who else we got here? Mark, and Joe, of course. Yep. And so there's we're sprinkled throughout the club here, and look forward to more participation, especially on the repeater. And any new ideas or interesting aspects that we can add to the meeting. It's usually about 2 hours, so we got to keep it condensed, but it's all good. Any questions? Okay, great. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, and then the meeting schedule for going to the schools, and that's published online?
Yeah, and that's usually monthly.
Okay.
But it's kind of a dynamic. It's a
little fluid.
Get it through Lee.
So if anything, stay tuned on the website, social medias. There may be little blips and blurbs on when they're going to be at schools and when it would be best to actually be on the repeater during the day there. Unfortunately, in my bay, I can hear everybody, but nobody can hear me. So I'm definitely QRP, but yeah, maybe I can get an antenna on top of the bay down there. I'll just say, I need it. Let's see, what else? Well, actually, I don't know where Sean went. Sean had another little short presentation too. I think it may be on some of the Meshtastic gear. But we can actually move forward onto the program. I don't have a lot, but I did manage to find an interesting bit on a video as far as how direction finding was done, especially during World War II. Tony, can I get rid of the recording part up there? I might give a little more screen space.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
You can share from your computer?
Yeah, I'm going to try to. Hopefully this works out.
So when you share, we got to pin your icon.
Gotcha.
Okay. Oh, actually, which is you?
I'm in two others there. There we go.
That's it.
There we go. It's not presenting.
No.
I should have practiced this too. Let's see.
If your PC plays audio, it's likely to feedback loop into my mic, into your mic.
Ooh.
I've featured a couple of stories lately on scanner listeners being prosecuted, and many people asked how the authorities knew that these individuals were listening to radio scanners. Well, in the stories that I told you, I simply don't know. One featured a suspected link to a pirate radio station, and my guess is that there's more to that story than meets the eye. However, today we'll be looking at the simple technology used to detect the use of anything between unlicensed TV sets to military radios in days gone by. It sounds quite complex, but after some research, it's really quite simple. In the 1930s and even later, many radio listeners in the UK were still using simple two-tube radios, comprising of a regenerative grid leak detector followed by a single audio output stage. An incorrectly operated regenerative set could easily be picked up and tracked down, but regenerative sets correctly adjusted didn't radiate, and I'm not aware of a way that they could have been picked up by something like a post office detector van. The regenerative sets were gradually replaced by super heterodyne receivers, where the incoming signal was converted to a fixed intermediate frequency, usually 455 kHz, by a local oscillator operating at the sum of the intermediate frequency and the frequency of the station desired. Most of these sets didn't use an RF stage to isolate the frequency converter from the antenna, and when in use they would radiate weakly at the local oscillator frequency. Therefore, it seems quite possible that the detector vans used sensitive receivers tuned to the local oscillator frequencies corresponding to the frequencies of the local radio stations, which back then were relatively few in number. Now, it sounds complicated, but basically the receiver was actually transmitting a weak signal that the detector van close by could receive and direction find, and they knew which frequencies to listen to based on the radio services in the area. Simple. Interestingly, whenever the locations and times that a detector van would be operating were published in the local newspapers, the number of new licenses taken out would greatly increase. So let's look at the military side of things. During World War II, there were fears that local oscillator radiation from receivers on board ships would be used by the enemy to pinpoint the location of convoys. This led to the development by the E.H. Scott Company of a series of very carefully shielded receivers that had extremely low levels of local oscillator radiation. The German Navy apparently developed multi-stage tune radio frequency receivers to avoid the possibility of local oscillator radiation. Even more amazingly, in his book Spycatcher, the ex-British Intelligence Service's Peter Wright claimed to have invented a technique for determining the frequencies to which radio receivers in foreign embassies were tuned by picking up the radiation from their local oscillators. Once the local oscillator frequencies were known, incoming transmissions could be monitored. In some older radios, including military radios from World War II, the signal from the local oscillator leaked RF on its way to the first mixer. Although ships in a convoy were careful about maintaining radio silence, they would maintain a watch for Mayday calls on 500 kHz, and this meant that the receiver was still transmitting. German submarines knew about this RF leak and would be able to pinpoint the location of ships even when they were not transmitting, and many Allied ships were apparently sunk this way. Detection of unlicensed TV sets, however, was achieved differently. To get adequate reception in the UK, at least in the 1950s and 1960s, an outside antenna was usually necessary, and the presence of one of these devices on a rooftop could hardly be missed. Electronic detection was based on picking up a harmonic from the sawtooth waveform used to build up the picture. In post-World War II UK, it was about 10 kHz. Since these sawtooth waveforms are very rich in harmonics, the detector vans used a directional loop antenna and a single receiver tuned to one of the higher harmonics of the line time-based frequency to pick up the stray magnetic field emitted. In some European countries, there was no need to use a detector van, as all buyers of TV or radio sets had to supply their names and addresses to the dealer, who then passed these on to the department in charge of issuing radio and TV licenses. More modern military gear came into play, and more sophisticated consumer radios went on to be built with several restrictive filters to isolate the local oscillator, so that the local oscillator and the first mixer were separated by at least 80 dB. Obviously today things are much different. TVs and radios are completely different, the way we receive most of our viewing has changed massively, and there are no detector vans anymore. So I hope you followed that.
Truly a bizarre time. And they still do fine folks for not having a digital TV license in the UK, and they still track people down. They don't exactly say how, or I don't even know what the fine is, but I'm happy we don't have to deal with that in America. All of this was research because I wanted to do a greater presentation and program on, the ARDF, the Amateur Radio Direction Finding League, which that whole thing blows my mind. I had no idea it was basically an Olympic grade sport where you kind of have to be good at sprinting and direction finding and hopefully place in that whole world order of things. It's actually a really neat subject if you get into it there. I don't have enough time, and I definitely don't have all the materials to set up something like that. The most recent thing I did was I did repair the Fox, the club's Fox Hunt transmitter, which is comprised of a Raspberry Pi. I want to say it was a AFSK modulator, a sound card, a whole bunch of stuff that I have to stuff into a box and then give a short antenna to that will be able to hunt. The most recent thing that I did was I actually found this kit online via a company called HackerBox, and it's just a ESP32 TFT screen and a SA818, basically the guts of a Baofeng. Literally, that's pretty much all you're looking at right there on the back. I'll pass this around, but I was able to program this, and this is just a self-contained Fox on its own. It's not a ARDF grade Fox for, you know, a large scale hunt, but I think this would be enough fun for the group there to actually have some fun in the park or maybe around Hilo. We're still getting that pinned down, but I thought this was a neat piece of tech. I just wish I had known about them sooner. This is literally the last one that they had in production and in existence. So I'm going to try and clone it to see if maybe we can make a couple. But yeah, I just wanted to bring this in and pass it around, have you folks take a look at it. I didn't add a battery to it right now, but I can attach it to a USB-C battery bank, and we can actually take a listen to the message that I have programmed to it. Yeah, if anything, we'll pass it around. Have a look. You want to check it out? I just put a stubby antenna on there, and then on the side that has the skull and everything, that's the side that has the actual radio chip on there. And on the front side that has the little screen, it's not on right now, but it has my phone number, my call sign. You can program it with whatever you want. It programs via the Arduino IDE. And it's just night and day compared to the other setup that we have there.
I just want to say that we'll be having a Fox Hunt at the field day.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so we will probably be using this and maybe the other one during field day. We'll see how it goes and what I can actually accomplish in that time. This might be the easier option to actually make work, considering it's one battery and it just turns on. Tony.
So, Thomas, is that a UHF transmitter?
This is a VHF. The UHF transmitters they're still being made, and there's still a handful of them out there. So if you did want to get a UHF version of this and put it together yourself and program it, that's an option. I wish they had made more of them, though, considering this would be a great, fun, like high school type of thing, you know. But yeah, this is the VHF version, to which, as far as I know, that's the last one. And then
the output power and what kind of input power?
I believe it was 0.5, so it was half a watt, but that should be perfect, especially for something in the park. It runs off of 3.7 volts because it's an ESP32 chip. So I'm actually surprised I was able to program it myself, considering I haven't programmed anything with the Arduino IDE in a decade. So getting back into that actually got some things rolling in my head there. So, you know, if you do know how to program anything, go check something like this out. It'll at least give you a refresher to be able to produce more things. I found my box of Arduino stuff, and now I have a whole new world of things I have to deal with. I did find some of the SA818, just the radio boards. Those are available on a site named Tindy, and they can be had for, I believe, $7 to $15, depending on the supplier. But you can buy them in VHF or UHF, and you use a UART interface to actually program it and to tell it, hey, volume up, volume down, whatnot. So if you just have a set command base, you can have it turn on, set its volume, and set the VFO on its own. So you just flick a switch and it's on. And like I said, it is the guts inside of a Baofeng these days. So if you ever wanted to build your own radio, you can build one super cheap now. I would say just make sure you get a filtering, at least one filtering cap and everything. There is a filter on this one. I know that there was a previous version that was a much larger board, and it was just to tinker with, but it didn't have any of the filtering. So the harmonics on it were insane. This has been pretty clean. I have my small spectrum analyzer, which is dead, of course. But it came up with, I think, one spur, and it was within regulation, which was nice, super nice compared to God knows what else. It does have a couple of buttons that are programmable, but I didn't bother with those yet. I figured one setup is the way to go for now. But I can actually turn that on, and you can hear the Morse message that I had programmed there. And if you have an HT and you have 146.565 programmed in, you could listen in right now too. We'll just use this one, I guess. Oh, this is the TT Go. It's ESP32. It runs the Arduino IDE, the whole code environment, and it actually has the screen built in on the front there. I should have actually made a couple of pegs so it can be pulled off, and hindsight.
So what the Nano is underneath the screen?
Underneath the screen.
Oh.
Yeah, such a tiny board, but amazing. Considering it's reprogrammable just like an Arduino, and even more channels. I have like 32 different channels on that tiny thing. And they make these far smaller too. You can actually get one named the Stamp or the Xiao or Xiao. It's beyond small. It's smaller than your thumbnail. Here, I'll actually plug that in. And when I plug it into a USB power supply, USB-C, the screen will turn on. Give it a sec, hang on. Maybe it doesn't like my my power supply. Hang on.
Wouldn't that USB be giving it 5 volts?
5 volts, but it is stepped down. The ESP32s, they are famous for running 3.3 volts. So everything is stepped down for them. And missed the whole set group and everything. But on the front of the screen, and I know it might sound like music, but I'm going to go ahead and say it's still a demo. And I was able to program Rick Astley's "Never Gonna Give You Up" onto this tiny board in my bedroom and get it to play every 10 seconds or so. Oh shoot! Well, I'll just unplug that in a sec. We'll give it one more. There we go. All right, so
you're under different, so.
All right. I want to talk to you a little more later. But interesting piece of tech. That's kind of what I figured, but gosh, again, if it wants me, oh no, I'm probably going to get this off the air as soon as possible. But the screen is lit up now, and it does have a leave in place order, my phone number, and my call sign, and stating that it's a Fox. It's not an IED or anything like that, but compared to the other Club Fox that was donated by Jim, this is night and day. This thing is tiny. It doesn't look like it's a nefarious thing. You can tell it is a radio because it has an antenna right there, and it's not a bundle and clump of wires. Good stuff. Good stuff. I just wanted to share that with you folks. With the whole direction finding end of things, I went down this rabbit hole because I wanted to see what it would take to get in contact with satellites. Now, I know probably not everybody, but in my mind, I figured I have a radio and it's possible. I might as well try. I made this antenna about 2 months ago, and it works. It works fine. It mostly detects UHF. That's where I found the greatest, at least what it detects. It does detect VHF as well, but just not as sensitive. And I was going to make a nice tape measure, Yagi and everything, just a cheapo one, just for the demonstration here. But I can't find my tape measure, so that's always the way. You'll earmark something and say, "Hey, this $4 tape measure is going to be in the back drawer. I'm going to take that apart." But It's never there when you need it. But I was able to make this with some spare pieces of titanium, and it picks up, and I'm still waiting for a decent satellite pass to actually do a downlink. There is a newer satellite with astronauts that are doing an SSTV type of competition. It's a little bit disjointed compared to what I thought of, but basically you could download a part of a picture when you catch one of their passes. And if you're lucky enough to have somebody else in Argentina be getting their pass, you'll be able to combine all of these parts of a photo into one. I'd rather just download a single photo, but we'll see. We'll see. I was able to get my Hack RF with the PortaPack and the nice screen here, able to pick up on a Fox as well. So I'm able to track the Fox or anything on any VHF or UHF frequency on this and use it as a direction finding device. Albeit the omnidirectional antenna isn't the best for that, but luckily it actually fits on this. So I can use my direction finding antenna that I made and be able to pick up on whatever. The Ringley Manchester video there, that has to be one of the most interesting things I've seen in a while. I just wanted to share that with you folks. I mean, I'm sure you folks know more about this whole thing than I do, but like I said, we don't have the vans in America at least tracking us down for not having a TV license yet. So we're good. We're good. Question.
On
Don't-
that Hack RF device,
Mhm.
do you just scan a little portion of the spectrum and it kind of shows you like it would on a DNA or a software-defined radio?
It actually
Is that how
shows it
works?
as a waterfall display. So you can have it as the waterfall display. You can have it do a tune section of about. You can key in how wide of a portion of the spectrum you want to view there. Let's see if that has battery in it, because I noticed it was on in my case earlier. And this is able to receive and transmit and also decode single sideband television. Just, yeah, a lot of things. It also decodes and shows ADS-B on the map. So if you wanted to view any kind of airplane, boat, any of that, you could just use one of these and connect it to your computer as well. It does have a micro USB port on the bottom, and you could also daisy chain these together if you have a reliable clock source. I don't have another one, and I don't have a reliable clock source, so that part's out for now. But if anybody else has one and they wanted to play, this would be a fun one. Hook up two of them into a clock source and see what we can get. You can also monitor POXAG pagers and Radio Sonde. I look forward to doing a presentation on Radio Sonde, the weather balloons that are just floating about. You guys, yeah, there we go. You do that. Yeah, we gotta talk more. Awesome. Make me more knowledgeable here, because as much fun as monitoring tire pressure monitoring systems, like that's another option on here. You can actually view all of the TPMS sensors that are nearby. It gets old really fast. It does pick up on all of the LTE frequency, not all of them, but the older GSM frequencies, 433 megahertz, all the way up to, I believe, 1.2 or 1.3 gigahertz. So you can view a lot of different protocols with this. The underlying board is what's called the Hack RF. It's just the main board underneath, and somebody slapped a nice screen to the front of it, and it is a resistive touch screen, so you can fiddle with things and actually do different things with it.
So Thomas, did that come as a kit?
This one did come as a kit, and I didn't even have to print the case, although the case is starting to do that yellowing thing that Nintendo's did and everything. But let's see.
Would you have to solder it together?
No soldering needed. I was a little bummed out about that. I'm a big fan of soldering, and I do like soldering SMD chips and everything. But no soldering involved. You buy it as a kit if you want. The newer ones that were just released beginning of last month, they have a bit more protection and a little bit more, or just a few more features, but it's still the same overarching kit there. If you do get one, you can also update them nightly. There are nightly builds of this firmware, which is awesome. So you can always have a different map set or a different set of instructions for it on a micro SD card that you pop in the bottom, reset the unit, and go from there. Actually, we could pass this around too.
So what about that little transmitter? Was that a kit?
That was a kit.
And it came with the antenna?
No, it didn't come. Well, it came with an antenna, but I did not bring that with me. The antenna it came with was closest to. I have one of the equivalents here, the Nagoya 771R, and it was an extendable antenna, but this is a much better one. It doesn't flop around. The other one I knew was going to come apart. If I brought it out in public, it would be bad.
Where did you get it?
I got this kit from HackerBoxes, hackerboxes.com. They do a lot of small projects like this, Arduinos, MIDI controllers, all sorts of little kits that they do a monthly subscription box. I'm not rich enough for that. I found this one kit and they let me buy it one-off, which was nice, very nice. The latest one, I believe, is a musical synthesizer, and it was a few modules that you put together and then program in the Arduino IDE. I'm not the biggest fan of the Arduino IDE. I have a couple more devices at home that I'm still struggling to program because, like I said, I haven't used that in a decade, or more than a decade. Jesus, it's been 20 years. But if you actually go by the instructions and know to watch out for certain things, like ExpressIF, the company that makes the chip that goes on this device, they output a newer instruction sheet for their chips. They didn't tell anybody. So 3 of the commands that I attempted to load onto this device weren't available anymore, and they weren't renamed or anything. I just had to code them out. So I found somebody's demo code and snipped through it, and there's probably a lot of mistakes, but it works, and it outputs Rick Astley, so I'm happy. By the next time, hopefully I'll actually get my call sign on there. It should be, I have Morse on it already. I was just happy to get something neat, a little musical melody on there. I figured that'd be a fun one too. If I can get another one, maybe even UHF, it would be good for education and outreach. Maybe if we could attenuate it a little bit more though, just put up even smaller antenna. I put the worst antenna I could find on this just because I didn't want it to be blasting out everywhere. And for my QTH, I was doing some testing. I called Gary, WH6 EPS, and I asked him if he could hear anything on 565. And he couldn't from his place. So that made me feel a little bit better. At least I wasn't outputting Rick Astley for the entire world. But yeah, it's one of those little kits that it surprised the hell out of me. I just wish there were more of them.
Thomas, I have a couple of stories of the practical aspects of radio directional finding.
I am, please.
I'm Hank, KH6HAK.
Our space cadet.
I came from Wisconsin, and I went to school where somebody else did here in Menominee, Wisconsin. We had a ham club there that went out and did a fox hunt one night. Now you got to realize we're out in the open fields in the counties, and it's 20 miles all around. One of our teachers went out to an unknown location and was transmitting something for 5 minutes at the top and bottom of the hour, every half hour. So you had to be ready for when these transmissions came, and had to listen for them and try to find out where they were. Well, a bunch of us went out in our cars all around the county, and you wait for the transmission. You get your HT out or a rig, hopefully one that has a signal strength meter and an antenna, and you try and find where the direction of the greatest signal is coming from. You also had better have a good map with you, because that antenna, that line is going to be 180 degrees either way. You don't know which way, but you know the direction. So you draw a line on the map, and then you drive another 10 miles to a different location, wait for the Fox to transmit again, and get another bearing and see if you can find where those lines cross, and maybe even a third one. And when you get something triangulated like that on the map, then you start getting local. You go to that area and you sit and wait and listen. That's when it gets a little bit harder. When you've got a strong signal and it's hard to determine what direction it's coming from with local directions and things, that's when it gets real interesting. Now, out in the farm fields, this isn't too bad. It's easy to locate a farmhouse that's pretty much in that. You drive up the driveway and say, gotcha. But we did this in Honolulu too with the club when I was over there. The club had a Fox that was built into an ammo can with a little whip antenna, had a chain on it and a battery inside and everything. And they would chain this to some public area, a light post or whatever, so nobody walked away with it. And they had a little sign on it as to what it was, so the police didn't get upset with this. One of the hardest foxes to find was in the middle of downtown Honolulu. And the reason for that is with all of those high rises around you, you get so many reflections, you get so many false readings. You're going around and around, and it's coming from over here, it's coming from over there, it's coming from the other direction, and it's awfully hard to determine. And it gets to the point where you're actually getting down to how close am I by looking at the signal strength. And even then, you're down to a block or two area, and you still can't find where the thing is. Direction finding is useless anymore. At that point, you use an old radio man's trick. You start listening for the second harmonic. You better have a good receiver, a general purpose receiver that can tune the second harmonic. And you start listening for the second harmonic and you zero in on that. And that gets real useful. Then you can get it down to, well, it's somewhere on this street within half a block, and you start looking for that little gray box that's strapped to a light pole somewhere. I was one of two people in the club that found it. Everybody else was just completely flustered. But that's the practical aspects of direction finding. You have to get your direction finding, your signal strengths, and when you're really close in, it comes down to listening for second harmonics and things like that. So that's what it's like being a fox out in the field.
Right on. Yep, you've touched on the actual triangulation part perfectly there too. During the first fox hunt that we had with the club here down at the beach park, I took off the antenna because I already had one reading, and I knew standing by the water, since it was salt water, I'd probably pick it up a bit better there on the second one. So that was a bit of a help there, just taking the antenna off. Speaking of antennas, this new radio here, the BTEC UV Pro, I'm surprised by this thing. I tell you what, it actually has a built-in TNC, KISS TNC, and it does APRS, and it has a boatload of features, especially with the paired app that comes with it. I hope this actually helps convince companies like Yaesu and others that have these awesome receivers to help give us a little bit more out of them, considering if a Chinese company can output this and it's even mediocre, there should be a bit more of a push from these greater companies. I know ICOM already puts out gold, but I've never seen a basic app for APRS that actually connects to APRS Droid, and I believe that the Apple version is APS FI. I can't remember. FI, yeah. Anyway, it does have a signal strength meter, KISS TNC, Bluetooth. The most interesting thing that I found was there are some companies that make almost answering machines for ham radio these days. I can't afford any of that, but when I let this just go on with no volume coming off of this, but it was recording to my phone, so I can go back to the day's messages and I can actually hear Joe or whoever on the repeater and actually listen into the 10-second blurb that he had and actually be able to repeat it. I just thought that was an interesting thing there because, you don't really see anything like this that is less than $700 these days. Like the newer Kenwood, the I want to say it's the D75. That's the newest one. And that thing is so far out of my price range. That's basically a new car. But yeah, if anything, if anybody wants to check this out, it's another option. Other than that, oh, John, you had something you wanted to share with the group, right?
Was it? Having a presentation. I guess we should get on the mic.
Yeah.
So this is totally unpolished. Last minute stuff. Kind of TO style, if anyone's ever seen that guy on YouTube. Sit and watch him break something. So a number of us have been doing Meshtastic, as most of you are aware. Luke did a presentation last week, which was really cool, nice. I saw a little bit of it. All I saw was me belly. This is no fun. Realize I gotta do some weight. But what I did is bring some of this stuff down for you guys to look at. When we're done, you guys can come and take a look. But I'll give you a brief, just what it is I have here. And it's kind of in the vein of, you know, like he's using the Heltec, was it V3?
The V3 and then the LilyGo
Yeah.
T-Deck.
That's a T-Deck, but the V3, that's for the Fox Hunt, right? Arduino. This is, okay, this one in particular is like the Heltec V3, very low power. It also has an adapter for solar on it as well. And it does manage the power. So if you put too much power in there, it's not going to blow up on you. And it runs under LoRa, the LoRa long range, low power. Meshtastic runs over that. You might say it's the GUI that runs over it, gets the protocol to deliver this via an antenna. Really, it is point-to-point communications, e-com, whatever it is you want to use it. This is unlicensed, what we use Meshtastic for. We can use it in the licensed area. Doesn't seem to benefit, you know, overall the benefits. Yeah, more power, but we really want to attract everybody, kind of like the gateway. Start off with the RF. Oh, I shouldn't be swinging this thing around. And then, you know, yeah, get them to get a ham license, you know. And so Heltec D114 V2, it's got a little screen on it, and you can run this through your phone via and you connect through your phone either Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, BLE. This one is connected via Bluetooth on that computer. The computer is not on the internet right now, but because this is what we like, RF, it will still play. I'll still get messages and be able, if it's on the internet, what happens in this case with what is called MeshSense, an app that you can run off of these devices. If you're on the internet, then you'll get also all the graphics and stuff from the browser and everything, or you can just download it on to your device. In this case, for my computer, it's not on there. You guys can come and look at it. It is getting messages. I don't have this thing on my hotspot right now because I'm using that to connect to a G2. This is what I would call portable, right? 3 dBi antenna. Everyone's going to look at it. You can, if you have Meshtastic downloaded, you can access the app and you'll see it as FO1P. And then if you get it, you know, with the Meshtastic app, you bring that up and it will bring in a code to pair it to that. And boom, you're there. You got that thing working on your phone. So that's that one. The same thing applies to the G2. G2 is more of a base station. Then there's a SenseCap, which Paul has, and right over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send a message from the G2 out because it's on the public channel. I won't go, there's a deep dive in any one of these subjects, you guys, okay? Right now, my public channel is on channel 2 because I have the telemetry channel, which is primary, as a private channel. That's a whole other story, but it's pretty cool. Okay, somebody sent a message. I'm going to send a message. Who sent that? Okay.
I picked up some radio traffic on my T-Deck, which actually has a graphic user face now. It's not just the basic screen that it was. Since the last meeting, I was able to update it, and I have a full-blown graphical user interface now. You mean on this? It's actually really nice.
Thomas, he can't hear you. Remember, bro? Mike. Yeah, that's for your Portuguese. So the thing is, that's the public channel, right? Public channel is encrypted. Everybody on a channel has to be exact in their configuration. Anything is off, you're not going to get it. So what we decided earlier on, kind of what you call leads or whatever, the early adopters, is to let the public channel be what it is. Because what we really have is channelized 7 other channels to play with. And from that came Vert or Ecom or your own family channels and other things like that. Or you create a private channel on the public channel, so you have the telemetry and still you have use of the public channel on another channel, which you can, it's all in meshtastic.org, you guys. So although I'm kind of like throwing it out there, it's doable. And the simplest part of Meshtastic is you can be an operator. You can just sync this thing up to the device like Paul has it done with the SenseCap. And it has these triggers, these sensors that you can use to alert you or the weather, environmental.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Now the sensors, they go from humidity, temperature, literally any environmental sensor that you would want to add. So if you want to have one in your car and you want to, look over what Spot is dealing with as far as heat and humidity wise, you can actually leave a node in your car and use it as a sensor platform with very minimal programming or interaction. You can have it automatically send you messages. There's so much to this that isn't. We're just barely scratching the surface. The blips right there, that sound of like an old Cisco ringtone. That's just. Was that just you? Yeah. Paul just sent a message over, and Hank's node picked it up. Now the 2 nodes that are in David's hands there, the one in his left hand is my LilyGo T-Deck. Now it didn't look like that before. Before it was just a graphical interface like the one in his right hand, where it was just a minimal amount of information. Now the latest update made it so it is a standalone device now. So you technically don't have to use your phone to get anything out of it. You can literally just walk around with that. It has a BlackBerry keyboard and it works. It works. It's picked up on all the conversations in here, and I was able to program that without even hooking up to my phone, which is the best part. But I've been waiting for that. I've been waiting for it to be like that for almost 2 years. I've had that thing forever, 5 ever even. It's been in my kit of stuff for a while, and I'm happy that there's a push for this now, because I kind of felt like I was just swimming laps alone in a circular pool there for a bit. But it's really nice because we do have channels to it. So if you wanted to get in on the MCOM channel and actually listen into what's happening up the road or whatever, I don't have a large antenna up outside of my house, but I have a node that I have to solder and put together, so I can set it up to be basically just almost a repeater. It doesn't have to be a repeater though. Anything on the client part of the network, it will still forward traffic. So you just having a regular client, it automatically forwards traffic for you. You don't have to do anything special. So when somebody passes by, like when he passes by my house, I pick up his node and I get whatever traffic was coming out. I don't use the MQTT version of things. That's the internet half of stuff. I like RF. I like knowing how far I'm getting with that. But it's a very low power device. But for being LoRa and running on 900 megahertz, that's the best I found so far through all the testing and everything I've done. Because I did a bunch of testing with my Flipper and my Hack RF, because I wanted to know what frequencies are already just muddled with info. That's how I knew about the TPMS sensors before I even got that unit, because they're everywhere. I got so much info. Oh, are we? Oh, it's 3 o'clock. Okay. Oh, that one's. Oh, no. Yeah, it's spot on. Here we go. Well, if you folks want to come up, we'll have a short break here for a little bit.